Kita mulai ya. Oke. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello everyone. Welcome to my talk show with me, Khusni Gusti NM, as your host, and we will be accompanied by our guest star today, which is certainly known. She is a child psychologist and she also a professor in educational psychology at UPIC. Besides that, she also the author of several books, which has looked at resilient children, trauma and tragedy. So don't linger any longer. Let's call our guest star today, Dr. Reza. Hello, Dr. Reza. Can you hear my voice?
Hello, yes, I can hear you.
All right, Dr. Reza. Thank you for joining our talk show today. I'm very grateful to be able to talk with you. Nice to meet you, Doctor.
Nice to meet you, sir.
All right, Dr. Reza, before we are going to the main topic today, so we're gonna talk about how to explain our situation in this pandemic era to our children. Yeah, it's very deep conversation or deep talk. So I want to ask you something, little. What is your business right now, Doctor?
All right, so as usual, I work every day, but since pandemic era, I work everything I doing it by online.
All right. So let's go to our main session with Dr. Reza here. So the first question is, when you have two children with 12 years old and 8 years old, and they are displaying emotion like anger, sadness, and fatigue. What does the pandemic having impact on their mental health, and what we should do beyond daily exercise and consistent routine?
Right, so well, the symptoms are sounding to me like the beginning of a childhood depression. So I would be watching the symptoms particularly and then carefully. And when a child is beginning to slip into a depression, one of the things that we know is that they have got a great deal of negative self-talk happening in their own head. That is that is precipitating the symptoms. So I would be making sure that you were talking to children in a way that was reframing what they were thinking. And this isn't the end of the world. This isn't the apocalypse. Our life is only pause and every day to create something that the child can look forward to. Um, I have got a break between this meeting and that meeting. How about we go in the back garden and have a picnic, or how about we snuggle and read your favorite book? But you need to ensure that the child has something that they can fill their mind with, that is positive. And if a child is in a very negative place and they have got a worry that they can get rid out, we know that activating the body, like jumping on a trampoline or quieting the body, like soaking in a bathtub. Those are two ways that you can help the mind switch on to something else. And one thing I like to do, I have a 7 years old at home, and one of the things that I like to do is turn on music and dance around the kitchen, and that seems to change the energy pretty quickly. That's it.
All right, that's very helpful. I hope that can help to all of my viewer problem. So, but maybe she writes in terms of what they have already constructed in their home. It sounds like they are focusing on daily exercise to get that body moving as you suggest. And what the important things that the parents should try to create.
Absolutely, I would add probably two things to that mix if I could. One is try to have a regular Skype or Zoom or some kind of social connection with one of the child's friends. So I've been doing this with a wonderful mother who has been helping me out. For example, when I have to jump on a video call with my patient, I can set up a Skype with my little boy and her little boy too. And that's something that both the little boys look forward to. So I would be trying to do some kind of social connection for the child, and then I would also try to do something that was creative.
Oh, so I can conclude that you will connect your children to other people in outside, right? Using Skype or online meeting. Okay. So we are getting another question as well, actually, for children with special needed. If there was a child with special needs and lately he will not go outside, even play into the yard or trying to outside, but when we do that, he start to vomiting. So how we do help him with this anxiety?
Right. Well, that is anxiety. So that the right call, and that tells me the child is slipping into a place of tremendous fearfulness. Typically, when we are working with a child with anxiety, we lean into that anxiety a little bit, but we don't let that anxiety win. So maybe not making the child go outside, but see if they can stick their foot out the door or put their hands out the door, and then I would back off at that point. So you don't want to be pushing so far that the child is vomiting. And if that child is that fearful, my suspicion, I mean, is that they are listening to the news or radio, or they are overhearing adult conversation that is fueling that anxiety.
So you try to reduce their anxiety, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Another question is from someone. It's actually the point in this pandemic era, as you know, that learning being disrupted. So the learning must be done in home, as you know that. The activity in home, like they write something or they do experiment at home, but they easy to be bored. So how you can change to keep it them to study, but not easy to board.
Yeah, I think their parents doing an excellent job. We need to remember that this is not an educational tragedy, but this is a virus pandemic, and making sure that our children are safe and healthy is the number one goal right now. So I'm not tremendously worried if there is not super huge educational gains right now. I think it's okay just to maintain where children are at reviewing work that they have already done. But in order to keep it interesting, I would be using technology a little bit. So I would use technology and an inquiry-based kind of focus, but I wouldn't worry too much. And yeah, I think their parents doing an amazing job.
Okay. Another question is come from Ron. He said he and his wife are divorced and they have a teenage daughter with 17 years old. Ron feel a bit stressed because his activity and his sport and extracurricular are shut down because this pandemic era. And he added by the divorce. So how you can get the share tips to him to help the mind is stay clear and happy.
I would say it's important to help her look forward. If she is 17 years old, that means that there is likely going to be a transition coming up in her life in terms of after high school and what she's gonna do. So I would be focusing on that, and then keeping her, her eyes on the ball and not being too distracted by what's going on right now. And then the other thing I would say is, as much as it's possible for you and for your former partner to keep things friendly and amicable now is not the time to sort of rehash the past and bring up things that were the reason for the divorce.
Okay, I'm also a little confused about some children sleeping and then crying and then talking about their mother's death. Like Jennifer, whose daughter said, "I don't want you to die, mom." So it's confused for me. So how do we respond specifically to the child's fears of the death, Dr. Reza?
Well, I would be very clear with your child that this is something that must affect all the people and also people who are already sick. It's not something that is dangerous for younger people, and so the reason why we are all staying isolated is to keep each other safe. It's not because we are tremendous risk. Um, we are doing this as part of a social contract, to keep our elders safe and to make sure that the vulnerable in our society are not put at risk, but we are not at risk. So just to reassure children and then take that fear just completely off their plate. I would go ahead and promise that you are gonna be just fine, and that's not something that they need to worry about it.
How about Brenda at Sun Countries? What about how she could help a little boy who cried easily? It seems like she was trying to hold it, but it was a small thing, and her eyes became red and full of tears. Oh, what is your opinion about it?
Yeah, I think I would pick that little one up and then give him a big hug and put him on your lap and tell him everything is going to be just fine. And I would be empathize with him, explain that you understand how he's feeling and that it's okay to feel that way. But I would be careful not to feed into it too much and don't spend a lot of time making that worry bigger. You want to reassure that child, hug them, and give them permission to have their feeling, and then as soon as you can, redirect them probably to something with a little boy, um, something a little bit more active. So go for a walk, or go shoot some basketball maybe, or just some baking together. So honor the emotion and distract and do something else.
Okay, another question is about the husband and wife working full at home. So they do the best for balance their children, but this causes conflict in front of the children. I'm also afraid that they think the work is more important than the family. So I was worried about the effect to the children. The son got angry when the wife and the husband was argued. What can you do to make this situation is better?
Well, I would say it's important to get outside. It sounds a little bit like you are inside a little bit too much. I would get outside. And the other thing, and I would be careful with this, uh, but I would use technology a little bit more. So I'm big on maintaining a strict control on screen time, but it's like when you are on a long flight or a long car ride and you let your children have a little bit more access to screen time. I would be sprinkling a little bit more screen time throughout the day to give your family a chance to have together time. So for you and your wife to connect and have let's say coffee in the morning, in the middle of the day, and at the evening, and have your children be watching something perhaps on Treehouse and giving you those moments. So just ease up a teeny bit, not too much on screen time, but enough to allow you a little bit more connection time with your spouse through the day.
All right, Dr. Reza, maybe it's a final question from Mo. Mo has a daughter who is 8 years old, and she writes every day that she very upset of this situation, and she miss her friend, and Mo only can give encouragement to his daughter. What is your opinion regarding this?
I would try to get outside. I don't think that going outside is dangerous as long as you have that appropriate distance from other people. So if there is an empty space outside where you can be for a little bit, I would do that. And I would also be creating FaceTime play dates with friends. For example, I have a 7 years old and I have been doing that every day, and that has been very, very helpful. So it's looking forward to those moments when he can connect with a friend. So use technology to your advantage right now and try to create things that the child is looking forward to.
Okay, Dr. Reza, I think we should finish our talk show today because we have arrived on the last session today. I'm sorry for disturbing your time. One more, thank you for joining our talk show today. It will become a good talk show for me and is new experiences for me about the mental health and about the children problem. So goodbye, Dr. Reza. See you. Have a nice day.
See you. Have a nice day.
All right.
Hmm.